and welcome to the Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynn Testoni. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. This podcast is sponsored by our good friends at Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software made just for Australian freelancers and sole traders. It's everything you need to make freelancing easier. Find out more at rounded.com.au.
Also, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, Rounded is giving you 20% off an annual subscription plan. Upgrade to gold membership for all the details.
Hello, Rach. Hi, everyone who's out there listening. Thanks to those who've recently been in touch, letting us know that you're listening and liking the podcast. We love that. It means a lot to us. So keep it coming.
Yes, we do love feedback, and we've had a few really nice emails and messages lately about the podcast from people that we didn't realise actually were regular listeners. So that's lovely. But it's great to see you, Lynn. I think we've done a couple of episodes this week.
Yeah,
and it's great to be back chatting to another successful freelancer today, especially because this week we're zeroing in on a topic that many freelancers will have pondered. When is it time to take a break from your freelance business and accept a 9-to-5 job? And here to talk to us about this is journalist Joh Leggatt.
it is such a great topic, and there's so much to think about, isn't there?
Yes.
I'll just read a quick bio for her.
Okay.
So Joh Leggatt is a Melbourne-based journalist with 20 years experience across print and digital. She began her career as a journalist at the Gold Coast Bulletin, went on to work for the Sun Herald in Sydney, Australian Associated Press, or AAP, where she covered crime and courts, and as a digital sub-editor for the Telegraph and the Guardian in London. In 2013, she went out on her own as a freelance journalist, filing for a range of titles, including news.com.au, SBS, Sunday Life, Escape Travel, Australian Book Review, The Age and The Guardian. She recently moved out of freelancing in May this year to become the lead editor for Forbes Advisor Australia. So welcome, Joh.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me on. It's great to be here.
Well, you actually approached us about this topic, which I wish many more freelancers would do that. So please, feel free to pitch topics for the podcast. But it's true that many of us are sort of in the midst of this great reevaluation right now, post-lockdown, and some of us might be thinking of a sea change, or we might be thinking about going freelance, or we might be like you and thinking about leaving freelance to go to a perm job. And I know from my perspective running Rachel's List, I'm seeing a lot more freelancers go for the perm jobs we're listing. So talk us through why this is such an important topic right now.
Absolutely. And thanks a lot for that intro. That was really lovely. And one of the reasons I approached you was because I thought if I was thinking this is a good time to go in-house and have done so, I thought other freelancers for sure would be thinking the same thing. And I would see periodically on Rachel's List and other boards, people sort of weighing it up and wondering whether they should kind of take a normie, go 9-to-5 or not. So, and I think the kind of impetus behind that is it's a couple of things. I think obviously it's a combination of the past couple of years, going through the extraordinary circumstances of a pandemic and the emotional and financial toll that can bring, as well as the nature of the job market right now. I mean, we have record low unemployment, genuinely increased flexibility. It has never been a better time to find a job that has the benefits of freelance work within the structure of a full-time job. So I think it's those two things. I think people are really tired, and freelancing is an incredible thing to do, but it's also can be very draining. After a pandemic, you're obviously reassessing and reevaluating your life and what you want to do, and look at the workplace. Employers have been scared straight, to be honest. And it's about time.
Yeah, I agree.
I left a full-time job at News Corp because it wasn't flexible enough, and now I've gone back in-house at Forbes because it is flexible.
Yeah.
So great.
Oh, so tell me about the new role and what a week looks like in your life right now, and maybe how it differs from your freelance life.
Absolutely. So I'm helping to set up Forbes Advisor in Australia. So Forbes, the media brand, is opening up in Australia. There's going to be the magazine, the main business magazine. And then there's a personal finance site that we're building called Forbes Advisor, which covers all of that kind of personal consumer finance news. So investments, super, cost of living, inflation. So my role is very much on the sort of the managing editor side. So I'm overseeing the hiring of a deputy who's joining us soon, which is great. Engaging in the production side of the site. So, building stories in the back end or helping the team in India do that, looking over the legal aspects and seeking advice on that, and also commissioning and writing stories on personal finance. In terms of how it differs, I suppose I'm on the other side now. So I'm able to commission and still work with freelancers, which is great. So really interested in freelance journalists pitching me in terms of personal finance. That would be wonderful.
Right. We'll be besieged after this now.
Oh, well, that'd be nice. It would be nice. It's great. No, I love working with freelance journalists. Obviously, I'm trying to be the editor that I always wanted and did have on a number of occasions. Getting back to people and being fair and making sure invoices are put through, all of that sort of stuff. So, and I guess it differs in another way too, in the sense that I only have one boss, and he's in New York. And he's amazing. So I'm really lucky in that sense that there is a lot of kind of crossover. There's a lot of autonomy. So it's very similar in that sense to freelance, the feeling that I got because I'm building something in Australia for Forbes, and you get that feeling of, you've got a lot of control and say over how this thing takes shape. So that's what appealed to me so much about the job. It wasn't just kind of slotting into a normal job where here's your task list and this is what you do, and then you've got to be here at a certain time and then you go home. It was this, here, what do you think we should do with this? Take this and run with it. And I think there are just more jobs like that because this is a global job and employers are now hiring globally because of after the pandemic. So yeah, that's how it kind of is the same, but also differs.
How interesting. And I mean, obviously this is a big change. You were a really successful freelancer, 6 figures, you'd been freelancing for 7 years. Were there other jobs that came up that you considered, or were you always like, no, I'm never doing that, I'm a career freelancer, this is my life now? Or did you occasionally think, oh, that's interesting?
Look, Rachel, like occasionally I would, and particularly after, I think every freelancer can relate to this. I think when you start off, you hit the ground running and it's exciting the first 2-3 years, and you just think, I've nailed this, I have got this, I've found the solution to this. I don't know what other freelancers. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and then I think you get your first bad client, or you get treated poorly, and you obviously that notion would flash before me, but overwhelmingly the positives of freelance outweighed the negatives. So no, it wasn't until I spent obviously Melbourne's lockdown. I cannot overstate how draining that was for me. Other freelancers might have found it to be a relief. As things slowed down, I found it to be extraordinarily stressful. So by the end of that, 2021, I was just so tired. And I that's when the thoughts stopped being periodic about returning to a 9-to-5. They just started to kind of come in at every time I got an email. I would be thinking, gosh, imagine just if I had one person I had to deal with instead of all of this. So I started to build. So I took a break. I took 5 weeks holiday at the end of the year as a kind of test to see if I just needed that, if it was just a case of a sort of mini burnout post-pandemic. Let's just see how I feel at the beginning of 2022. And I said no, a lot of work, and I was really strict about it. I came back to my desk in January, late January, and look, for the first few hours, it was fine. And then I thought, no, I need to start looking. And it was hard. It was because my ego was still very much a freelance journalist, because there is this heroic quality to being a freelancer. It's incredible. You make money off your laptop, and it's sort of almost like, for me to acknowledge that there's this part of me, a huge part of me, a wise part of me, that was saying, you need to take a break from this, felt like a kind of failure to my ego. It was like, oh, it's just, am I giving up? And so I wrestled with it for a long time. And then,
do you think you had sort of a romantic idea of freelancing too?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think every freelancer to a degree does. And it is that's not untrue. There are moments and there are weeks in your freelance career where you think, I cannot believe I get to do this. So on top of that, freelancers tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves and tend to think that, I certainly did anyway, that, how I would worry about how my business looked from the outside, as opposed to thinking, well, who cares? You've got nothing to prove, and it's worth seeking out other options. So I just started to just sort of put feelers out there and investigate a few things. And before Forbes came along, I did take a short-term contract with a professional services firm, and that was fine. But this is just really about rejuvenation. This is about, I can go back out again with new ideas and a new perspective. And then Forbes came along, and I thought, whoa, this is I want this. So that's a kind of convoluted way of saying that it was very, a mix of emotions. As you can imagine, it's incredibly hard to give up something that you've invested so much energy, so much time, website building, you guys know all of this. Yeah, that's letting go was hard. But once I let go, I was fine. But yeah, it took a little while. My ego had to kind of adjust, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a bit about the benefits, but let's drill down into that. I mean, what are the real advantages to leaving your freelance business behind, even temporarily, and going in-house and being part of an editorial team again, or a content team, or whatever it is you want to do?
So I think the first thing is new ideas. I could not believe how many, as soon as I sort of hung up my freelance kind of belt and went inside in-house, I had all of a sudden I had these ideas for stories that I could no longer write, of course, because I was in-house. But I think, thinking, why couldn't I think of these ideas when I was freelancing? I think you get the energy again. You're rejuvenated, you're refreshed, your mind's not scattered in a million different directions and covering different clients. So that was a big thing that I noticed, was how many more ideas I had. And of course, you're covering new topics. You're being exposed to an entirely different work culture, an entirely different world. And it's like a knowledge intensive taking an in-house job. You will get, in 6 months, 4 years worth of knowledge, I think, than you would compared to what you would on the outside, because you are often thrown into things that you might not have researched that topic before, but you have to. So it's just really good for finding, I would imagine, for freelancers that perhaps do see freelancing in their future, need a break. It's a great way to get a new niche, many new niches, and to get new ideas, to have a break, and to upskill. So, there's that corny term, professional growth, but honestly, it has been such a game changer in that regard for me, in terms of just getting across tools and getting across new ways of doing things. Because when you're out of the workforce, of course you're not out of the workforce, but out of an in-house workforce, so many years, you do lose, I guess.
Do you think you lose your edge, or a bit of a touch?
A little bit
of what's some of the cutting edge sort of tech things, or
absolutely,
or thinking?
absolutely. And perhaps you realize that you've been worrying about the wrong parts of SEO, or the wrong, no one cares about that, and this is what's really, these are the interesting areas, and this is what people are looking for in terms of content, and how the tools they're using to create content maps and content sheets and so forth. So that's a huge, there are numerous benefits. And I think it's just a psychology thing. If you can, it doesn't mean, it's not a bad thing to go in-house. It's not, doesn't mean you'll never freelance again. The doors will always be open for you if you want them to be.
Yeah, I love that.
Rach and I often talk about how it's a job seekers market right now. And certainly, as you were talking about, sort of record unemployment. So you can really have some major leverage when you go for a full-time role. Is that what happened to you? Do you agree with that?
I do, absolutely. And because I was coming off a contract, and I was thinking, well, I might go, is this enough time to I've been in-house, should I go out again? I wasn't desperate for a job, and that's a good position to be in. So absolutely. And I think the conversation has changed. You don't really even need to change it. Like, with really good companies, they're now talking to you about, what's in it for you, and how we can make you happy at work, so that you're, producing your best work. And that is it's not something you have to even like manipulate the conversation or orchestrate it around. It's right at the front. Having said that, I've noticed a bifurcation. There tends to be the job ads you look at, and I still look at job ads. I'm just fascinated by the whole world of work, and I find it so interesting how they write their ads. And in the past, it was all very much, this is what you'll need, this is the criteria. And now there's two kind of tiers. There's the employers that haven't quite caught up and are still doing this is what you need, and sure, flexible arrangements, but not really going into any detail about what that actually is. And then you've got the second lot where really clear, this is what work's going to look like for you. The good employers who are getting it, whether it's by learning the hard way or they've always been, you know, really, really sort of forward thinking in that regard, starting those conversations really early. So I found it all of my concerns about taking a job after being a freelancer were answered really easily. And I did my due diligence. I made them get on the call to me from New York twice. I thought, I thought and if it's I didn't feel like all my questions were answered in the first call. And so I requested a second call. And I thought, if this is a problem, then that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
And I got great peace of mind that they were absolutely supportive of work-life balance, because the last thing I wanted with a global company was to be working global hours, if that makes sense. I wanted to make sure I could work my time zone. And that was, you know, absolutely. And, you know, great benefits, you know, things right down to, I have every fourth Friday of the month off is a paid mental health day. They really look after their staff in terms of insisting that you don't log on outside of work hours. There's co-working stipends, so I work from a co-working space. So all of these really genuinely flexible, not just, here's a ping pong table, or here's an employee assistance program if you need it, like actual tangible benefits. So
that's fantastic. And so would your advice be to freelancers who are contemplating, you know, an in-house move or to a perm job or something, that the landscape is open for you to ask for these things and not be scared, and not, you know, if the job is what you want, but they're not offering those things, that you should ask for them, because it's so much easier to get them right now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely. And also, if they're not offering them and you have to ask and it's begrudging, move on. Just if the culture's not there, because like really, if someone
you don't
says,
want that battle continuously for the next few months, do you? No.
It's not up to you to fix the culture, is it? And it's not good enough anymore. So I think that if my advice would be, if an employer says we're really supportive and flexible, what does that look like for you? Like, what exactly do you mean by support? How will I be supported?
Yeah.
What does flexibility actually look like? Does it mean that, you know, if you're a mum, that you can leave at 3, or, you know, I mean, things like that, you'd want examples, I would imagine, as to how that looks before you jumped, because, you know, in order to make that transition from running your own show with, you know, complete autonomy, I think it is a delicate move in a sense. And I know why so many freelancers would be hesitant. And I was so hesitant, because the last thing you want is to go from autonomy to being micromanaged. So it's understandable.
Great advice. I love that.
So this move to working in-house, is it strategic for you? Are you looking at bigger picture about getting contacts and, you know, upskilling and things, or which might help you if you went freelancing? What are you thinking of?
Yeah, look, in the beginning I have to say I was 100% strategic. I was, particularly with when I was working for a professional services firm, it was a contract. So I thought, this is going to be great. And it would have been. And with Forbes, I thought, well, if it's not as good as it sounds, then sure, I'll go back out there again. I'll have all this energy. But I've been there now for quite a number of months, and I have no intention, which is surprising me. As a dyed-in-the-wool freelancer, I would never thought I would say this. I thought I'd do this for the rest of my life. I don't see myself going out, and that's why I want to come on the podcast, because it can change you. You can think, I'm never going to do that, but you can find a better world and a better work world for you that will surprise you if you're open to it. And you know, that's been my kind of transition. But for someone else, it might look like going in-house for 3 months and then going back out again, or 3 years, or 20 years, or forever. You know, I think there are just a variety of ways that you can have a freelance life. And for me, it looks like it'll probably end here. You never know. But for now, I'm really happy in this job, and I have no plans of moving out again. And I think part of it is because I do still work with freelancers, and that's lovely. Like, I feel like I'm still part of the community, and I like working with freelancers because they tend to be that, you know, they're my kind of people. They sort of like to sort of do things to the beat of their own drum. You have to be so resourceful, and they're generally self-starters. So that's lovely to be able to work with them still, so to feel part of like the freelance landscape, even though I'm not filing. So it's a kind of a nice fit. But even if it didn't turn out to be a nice fit, I would just see it as part of that. You know, I could definitely use these. It would have been still a great move because I would have used the skills and taken them out with me again at some point.
You know, I'm so envious of you right now because I think I definitely come up against those questions, or I often, you know, have people saying, would you be interested in this job on LinkedIn? And I always look at it and think, God, I would love to do that for a lot of the reasons that you've mentioned. But I think for me, it's like you are suddenly not juggling all those clients, are you? So there's that's gone.
Yeah.
The invoicing is gone. The endless chasing of invoices is gone. I mean, what else is gone that you are not missing?
Great, so much.
Having to pitch. I mean, you still have, obviously, probably in story meetings and all of that sort of stuff, but having to find clients and the endless hustle and my time is my own again. Like my time after work is my own again. Yeah.
So that's been really nice. And you know, when I wasn't exhausted and pre-pandemic, freelance had all those probably up, you know, and I completely relate, Rach, to you not wanting to do that. I understand, like, it doesn't seem crazy to me at all. If I was still in that sort of space, but I just, you know, I'd gone so far beyond, tired of it. So I think, you know, from what the things that I don't miss, chasing invoices. I think freelancers are often treated quite poorly, even by, you know, reputable organizations, sometimes especially. I think the feeling of, this is probably more important than I've indicated, but the feeling of not belonging anywhere. I mean, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I don't miss that feeling of not quite being anywhere, which, you know, is freedom on one level, but it's also disconnection and sometimes was quite lonely, you know, like that feeling of alienation, I suppose,
and not being in a team.
And I didn't think I'd feel like that, but it's been a year of surprises. So
I think that's why, like, those online communities that we all join, like the Gold Group or like the Freelance Jungle, become so all important to us because it gives us that sense of belonging. But being part of a team in-house is such a different feeling, isn't it? Because you're all working towards building something. It's really different to the online community.
It is.
It's not quite the same.
Absolutely. But it's not dissimilar to what you and Lynn have built with the podcast. Like there, I think the advice to freelancers is I think you need other freelancers in the trenches with you, like a shared project, or I think it just helps someone to just, and I didn't have that. And I tried to find it, and I've got freelance friends in different industries, but it wasn't quite the same. So, and you know, you can only bore your husband for so long before you have to just dear diary it, right? So I think that was a big impetus for me. It's so personal, the reasons. There's no kind of right answer. It's really individual. And it sounds like with you and Lynn, like you've built this community that's so important, and that would give you such a sense of satisfaction. And then the shared podcast and that kind of ongoing work relationship that you've got. That sense of community, if you are a freelancer out there listening who is feeling that isolation, it can really help. It really does make a big difference. And obviously there's the other practical things that you don't miss, like invoicing, chasing, you know, thank you for your email. Juggling. Oh, how can I fit this in? And then saying yes and thinking, oh gosh, I shouldn't have said yes. I can't get that. You know, should I ask for an extension? Or, you know, second guessing. Like I felt like I was in a platonic relationship with all my editors and clients, where if they didn't hear from them after a while, I would start to read into the silence. Like you're like a adolescent who started dating, and you're just like, oh, what does it mean that they haven't got back to me? What does it mean? I don't miss that.
No, it's all just fallen away.
It has.
Tell me about the negatives about working in a house.
Are there things?
There must be some challenges that you'd forgotten about, or that surprised you.
Absolutely. I think the challenges have been, first of all, it was just going in-house, like that, just having certain hours. Even, like that was okay. So I can't go to yoga in the middle of the day, and I just can't do it, even though I've got this role now. I just can't bring myself to do it. I'm very much in that. You're in a different headspace. So you feel like, even though, you know, my boss would be completely fine with me, you know, going to yoga in the middle of the day and working a little bit later, other people are online at that time or leaving you things, and you have to kind of, you just don't feel like you can. And that at first I thought would be the hardest thing. And it has been a mental shift that you just kind of take your time getting to. And it probably took about 2 months before that just felt normal again. So that is one of the big things. Obviously, having a boss, like a direct boss has been strange. But I'll have to say, I felt like I had about 6 or 7 bosses in the past.
So having just one is good.
But one is good, but also just making sure I have to just check myself all the time and say, okay, do you need to run this past Alberto, who's my boss? Do I need to, just thinking, that's been a challenge to think like an employee, as opposed to, like, I don't need to let anyone else know. I know. Yeah. So having to kind of always like retrain your brain to communicate with team members the things that you're doing, the things you're up to. That has been like, of course, they can't read my mind. So I've had to leave like little post-it notes, like write to this person about this, like tell them.
Yeah.
That, as you can imagine, has been a massive challenge.
Yeah.
But it just takes time. You just have to be patient with yourself, and I'm not the most patient person.
Yeah.
So
I want to kind of circle back to the whole question about whole dismantling of the freelance side of things. I mean, I'm guessing this is perm, you're not freelancing on the side, or are you still doing some of that?
No,
so you've completely left it behind. So how did you dismantle it all? I mean, did you pass your clients on? How did you do it?
Yeah, so in some instances, I just let the ones that were clients that I've had for many years, I just passed them on to people that I used to give sort of work that I couldn't do anyway to. So I just, they took a lot of that up. The others were sort of a couple of agencies that I worked for, where I just let them know, look, I'm going in-house. And it wasn't easy, but mostly I just passed it on to other freelancers. And look, I do a voluntary position on the board of the Australian Book Review, so I might do the occasional book review, but that's probably not until next year. So, and that's not to keep my hand in freelance, that's to just write book reviews because I enjoy it, and it's a kind of a voluntary role that I do. So I enjoy that, and as a board member, you kind of have to keep that up. But in terms of writing on the side, it doesn't. I haven't missed it as much as I thought. Yeah, I kind of. And look, to be honest, by the time I got to that stage where I was scouting about for roles, I had stopped gaining new clients. Like I was doing bare minimum because I was so tired. There wasn't, didn't have like a fabulous kind of party to sort of see me off at the end, because here are my clients, and I was holding on to only the really good ones. I'd let go of a lot of clients in the past couple of years that weren't really good, that were paying too low, or the conditions weren't great. They were calling me after hours. I was really getting sick of the conditions. So it kind of naturally had fallen away into where I wanted to, and that was part of the problem. I had no energy to take on any new clients. I was saying no more than I was saying yes. So the lovely ones got pointed in the direction of lovely freelancers. So
wow. Because you freelanced for 7 years and you were quite successful, do you think are you confident that you could pick it up again if you wanted to, or what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I would do it completely differently.
Really? How would that be?
Look, I don't think you can sort of obviously prepare for a pandemic or being in the most lockdown city in the world. I don't think you can really sort of factor that into like a risk chart as how you're going to find that. But I pushed myself to the point where I burnt out a couple of times, and I would like work, and then I would have these breaks, and I worried about things that now I know are not worth worrying about. I've got better skills. I would be more targeted and less focused, I think, on the money, to the point where, and I was always earning enough, but I had this kind of sort of internal pressure, and that I would put on myself, no one else put on me, to every year beat what I'd made last year. And it was getting ridiculous. And as we know, journalism has only the rates have gone backwards. Even corporate client work, it's great. And I obviously went more in that direction as that became clear that was the path to go on. But it's a recipe for disaster in a shrinking media landscape to try and make consistently 6 figures and better that 6 figures each year.
Yeah.
I think I would do it and
It's a
focus more
recipe
on
for exhaustion, isn't it?
Yeah.
it really is. So I made a lot of mistakes, and I think, that's part of the reason I went in-house. I mean, it's not, I think if freelancers are out there and they've got a better life balance and they're not as focused on the money like I was, then that's probably that's great. Then there might not be that need to kind of change anything. But I think I just, the competitive nature in me, I just drove myself too much. So I would go out there very differently. Like I said, I'm really happy not driving myself and just doing a good job and enjoying the new challenge with a new mindset. But yeah, I would go out there and really appreciate it and really look for relationships and build a community. And I would, it would be with a different mindset.
That's great. Yeah.
So we often ask our guests about tech tips, but for something different, perhaps we could ask you about the tech that you're learning now in your new job and the skills you're picking up as a result of being back in-house.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are at the moment building the Australian site out, and the first kind of stage of that is publishing a lot of articles. So Google starts to index the stories with the Forbes URL, and that's obviously a huge advantage. But it's obviously very SEO focused. So I've got a fabulous local SEO manager, and I mean that's the number one tech tools that we use are related to SEO. So Hrefs and neural text. I'd never heard of it before, but I don't know if you guys have. But it's not only does it do keyword research, but it then does topic clusters and creates kind of content plans around these keywords.
Wow.
So it's fabulous.
Neural text.
Yeah, NEURAL text.
Okay.
And it's great. And Hrefs is a fantastic keyword research tool. So you've got access to tools that would be quite expensive. I think Hrefs is quite expensive.
Yeah.
So learning on the job with an SEO manager how to build content out like that, and finding out, for instance, we ran a story recently on whether or not Australia will go into a recession. I asked the SEO manager, are people Googling this at the moment? Is this a concern? And there's this new way of kind of developing a news list. And he said, yeah, it's going off the chart. So you've got this kind of, the technology of SEO is just, and I took an SEO course about a year ago. I learned a lot, but nothing compares to kind of putting into practice. So that's been fantastic, and just more kind of back end WordPress production stuff that I've been doing, which has been helpful. But really, the main tech tools have been in relation to SEO, which has been really, really interesting.
That's so interesting because you've got that kind of baseline of data to work from. So it's a totally different way of thinking about stories and putting stories and content together. Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is really exciting. I agree. I like SEO. I'm not one of those journalists that thinks, oh, it's a bit crass, and you will decide what the people want to read. There is that sort of old school mentality. Yeah. Exactly. So it's SEO is a sort of I think someone described it to me as a kind of the new newsstand. It's a way of kind of seeing what people are interested in. So any journalist or copywriter should be across it, in the sense of just looking at, well, how do I take that search topic and how do I build a story out of it, because this is what people are telling you what they're interested in.
Absolutely. I'd really like to ask you about how Forbes Australia all communicate. Do you guys use something like Slack or
that tool? Slack is the main communication tool. Yes. And Trello is the way we communicate internationally. So all the stories go up on commission stories go up on the Trello boards, and you just move them around to the different production teams. And so our main production team's in India, but I can see the boards in the UK, I can see the Trello boards in the US, I can see all the verticals, so everyone can see what everyone's working on through the various country specific Trello boards. And then everyone's on various channels in Slack. So it works really well. I wondered how it was going to go with Australia in particular, because they've launched in Italy and they've launched recently in Canada. But that's obviously very, very kind of synchronous with the US and UK time zones. And we are completely asynchronous. But it actually works well, because you wake up and there is a few questions that you can answer, or things that you need to know have been answered overnight, and you're left alone.
Yeah.
So I recommend a global company. You're left alone to do your job.
Yeah,
all
good.
day. You're not in meetings.
Yeah.
I do one meeting at 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. is my latest, and then I've got a meeting at 9 a.m. with New York, and that's their 6 p.m. I believe.
Yep.
And then between those sort of bookends of meetings, I just, that's the thing I didn't want, was to spend my life in meetings. I can't stand that bureaucracy. I think most people who do anything real for a living, like a real job, actually produce things, don't want to be in
a lot of meetings.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Joh, this has been so brilliant talking to you. I've got one last question.
Good.
One last question for you. So the freelancers who are listening to this and might be thinking, hey, there's something in this, I might think about going in-house. I mean, what would be your top tips for them?
The first one would be to make sure it's not a phase, because everyone has the part of the freelance journey, in my experience, and from what you guys are saying too, and other freelancers, that you always have those bumps in the road. There's going to be days where you think, I just want a job, and you might even get on Seek or Joh and just have a look. Like, I think that's perfectly healthy. It's like a venting mechanism. But
yes,
to think, what else is out there? I want to find someone who appreciates me. There's that kind of reaction. But I just think giving it some time, like give it a month or two. Like, and if you're still sort of fixated on the problems of freelance more than the positives, because there are both, then I think that's the sign. The second one is look for a job where there is genuine flexibility. So there's no need now to just take any 9 to 5. You don't have to think, oh, well, I can't, I'm over freelance, so I'm just going to have to accept that my life is going to be miserable. I'm going to have to get some boring job. That's not the case. There is a job out there for you. It's about really asking the right questions and focusing less so much on what you'll be doing, because I've found that most jobs you can make enjoyable if you're given support and you've got great people around you. It becomes less about the work and more about that feeling of belonging and that connection. So really, like, interrogate them as to what their flexibility looks like. So find a global job, I recommend, if that's your bag. You might want more interaction than I've got. The third point would be, I guess, just I wouldn't recommend trying to do both. I wouldn't recommend taking a full-time job and still, keeping your hand in.
Yeah.
I think that's hard. I think it's a way of almost not making a decision, isn't it? Like, you've got to commit.
Worst of both worlds, really.
Yes, exactly. The worst of both worlds. And you'll end up burnt out and you'll end up frustrated, and you'll think, then where do you go? So I think you make a decision and commit to that decision. And if you don't like it, you can always go back. I think these are the days of, there being clients that are static, and if you leave them, you'll never have another client again. I mean, that's not the case anyway. You're always changing clients and getting new ones. So so try not to let the fear stop you. And so keep going despite the fact that you're afraid.
How fantastic. Well, you mentioned earlier on in the podcast that people can pitch you if they have ideas.
Yes.
How should they do that? Do you want us to put your LinkedIn down? What works for you?
Yeah, absolutely. My LinkedIn is great.
Yep, we can put a link in the show notes to that. Is that the best way for people to pick you?
That is the best way, because I do check my LinkedIn every day.
Oh,
so
good.
Yeah.
Amazing. This has been such a fascinating chat. So thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, really interesting, and quite thought-provoking about choosing the way we work and why we choose that. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thanks for your openness. I know I sent off that random email, but I just thought,
we love a good
it was
pitch.
very well structured, I have to say. It was like, I like getting this.
Very impressive.
Well, yeah, I felt like I had to, I don't know, like you guys have given so much to the freelance community, and I have just sat there as a lurker for many years, and it was time that I spoke up and gave back myself a little bit. That's what I feel like the freelance community and the Gold Group has given me so much, Rach, and leading your podcast. So it was time to give a little. Not just
that's
take.
great. Thank you.
Definitely. I think it'll be really helpful to a lot of people listening.
My pleasure.
So I think that's it for today.
Yes.
So thanks so much, Joh and Rach and everything. It's great. So don't forget, we'll have notes in the podcast app, so you can connect with Joh. And I guess we should also say thanks again to our lovely sponsors, Rounded.
Yes.
Yeah, rounded.com.au, because we love their easy accounting and invoicing software. And it's just made for Australian freelancers and sole traders.
Yes.
Go to rounded.com.au for more details.
Great. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.